Okie doke, so for those of you who are new to After Effects and have never used or touched After Effects, this lesson is for you. Now for those veteran After Effects users, you may skip this lesson if you wish because I'll basically be doing a walkthrough of the user interface of the software. I'll be giving you 3 seconds for the seasoned users to check out. Okay, so let's go anti-clockwise here, beginning with the project panel. Now, if you open up After Effects, and for those of you who have recently downloaded one, you can always reset your workspace first, and I just recently reset my standard, and this is what it should look like so that everyone here has some continuity on what I'm talking about. So beginning with the project panel, basically this is where you bring in all your items that you want to use. So if you have, let's say, 5 images you want to use, you want to have to bring all of them in if you want to use in your comp. So let's do a sample right here. I'm going to double click to import. And I'm going to go to the items that I want to import. And now I have brought these 2 in. Now making compositions is very simple. There are 2 ways and actually multiple ways to do this. Now I can always just click on the video or the image that I want to create a comp with a comp size and drag it over this little icon here. That is basically the comp icon. Or if I want, I can always just click on this and then create an entirely new comp. Now this size here isn't exactly what we want, so what you can do right now is right click on this comp that's created and go to composition settings and then basically change it to something like 720p to make it fit. And there you go, you can see those changes applying right there. Now when you want to put effects here, you have to kind of look and see where the hierarchy is for the effects because they do affect how the final output looks like. So I'm not seeing any effects controls here. So what you can do is go to Window and then click on Effect Controls right here. And that will basically bring up the related layers effects if there's any on it. Right now there's nothing right there. And you can basically test your effects by, let's say, I'm going to put a curve right there and see how that looks like. You can see it's affecting the image. So this is basically the panel where you put all your effects in a hierarchy standard. The order matters, so just bear that in mind. Now going this way, the timeline panel, as you can see after you created your comp, this should pop up and fill in with the comp that you just created. Basically this shows you the entire length of the footage in both frames as well as time code right here. Now there are various shortcut keys for you to trim the work comp. So basically it only affects the area and you can actually RAM preview the area if you want. The timeline is where you can scroll and scrub your footage and see at various frames where things are and where your effects are being applied. Now moving on this way, the effects and presets, as we've proven and tested just now, is basically where you find all your default or plugin visual effects. As you can see, I have some Sapphire plugins right here, and you can basically drag in these onto your layers and see how they apply. Now this is important for you to basically do any kind of adjustments onto the image itself. And then going up this way, the info panel. As you can see, if I hover my mouse over the clip right here, you can see the RGB values changing as well as the X and the Y, basically determining where my mouse is. If I go all the way to this corner right here, I'm at 1270. It's basically the position of where my mouse cursor is, as well as what values each color channel of RGB is. Now this might be useful if you're compositing, but right now, let's just know that this is basically what those values are saying in the info panel. And then moving up here, you have your toolbar, very useful. Although I would probably recommend learning the shortcut keys. Now you can always hover over each icon here to see what the shortcut keys are. This is just a handy little toolbar for you to basically navigate around or create simple things like masks. If you've used Photoshop before, you know what this does, a text tool. And then lastly, of course, we have the preview panel right here. This is where all your images and footages show up as well as comps. So if I double click on this, it'll basically bring up a new panel for my preview. And you can have as many as you like. You can even move these around. If you click and hold on it, you see this kind of a tint, basically telling you where you might want to put it. So let's say if I want to put it on the right, I'm going to move it there. And there you go, I have a second panel. Now you can lock these if you want, if you don't want them to change. So for example, if I double click on this footage, it's going to create a new panel because I locked this to this image right here. So it really depends on your preference. And lastly, if you kind of messed up your workspace like what I did, you can always just go to Window, Workspace, and then go back to Standard. In this case, I would actually say Reset Standard. And there you go. Back to my original happy workspace. And speaking of which, this window right here is where you can actually bring up all the additional tabs that would otherwise be hidden. Unless you open up different kinds of workspace settings, these are normally hidden from your view. Like for example, let's say I have some audio. I click on this, it'll actually highlight this audio tab here. Or if I want to maybe add some paint, I'll click on this and bring up this paint tab here. And there you go, just a quick rough walkthrough of After Effects. Feel free to post any additional questions if you have about anything related to the user interface of the software, and I'll be happy to help.